The Battle of Hattin in 1187 is one of those historical events that you kind of have to Google to remember happened. But when you do, it's pretty embarrassing for the Crusaders. It was a total defeat that led to the loss of Jerusalem just a few months later and the overall weakening of the Crusader states in the Levant that would only be reversed at great cost nearly 150 years later. So let's talk about it. In July of 1187, Christian and Muslim forces clashed near the city of Hattin in what is today Israel. The Crusaders were attempting to relieve the siege of a castle, but they were ambushed by an army larger than their own led by the Muslim general Saladin. And things went really poorly for the Crusaders very quickly. Their cavalry was wiped out and their infantry was utterly routed, and it gets worse. As word spread of the massive Crusader defeat, other Muslim forces joined Saladin's army and he went on to capture Jerusalem in October of the same year, as well as most other Crusader strongholds in the Levant, with only a few cities spared. To say the loss was catastrophic is an understatement. It sent shockwaves through Europe and is considered the low point of the Crusades. But it did not go quite as badly as it could have. Despite the destruction of the Crusader states in the Levant being almost total, Jerusalem remained in Muslim hands for the next 200 years. But Christian pilgrims were allowed access to the city, which is more than you could say for the Jews who had been expelled. And in response to this massive defeat, Pope Gregory VIII launched the Third Crusade in 1189. The leading figures were Richard the Lionheart, Philip II of France, and Emperor Frederick Barbarossa. They had some success and managed to push the Muslims back and establish a Crusader state in what is today's Syria. But they failed to capture Jerusalem itself. In fact, Richard and Saladin actually negotiated a treaty where Christians were allowed to visit the Holy City, but Muslims would remain in control. But perhaps the biggest failure of the Third Crusade was Frederick Barbarossa. He drowned in a river while on crusade, an unfortunate end for the leader of the German army. But his son, King Henry VI, wisely decided not to follow in his father's footsteps and instead stayed at home and consolidated power there. You know, because you can't have a crusade without a German. So the Third Crusade ended in failure, but it wasn't total failure. At least the disaster at Hattin led to some good things coming out of it, like a renewed sense of purpose for the Holy Roman Empire and the creation of the Teutonic Order, which may or may not have done anything. So if you want to learn more about those wacky medieval monks who fought in the Holy Land, stay tuned for more information.